Welcome to another installment of Quick Tea Tips, also known as our cuties. Today we're going to talk about tea gear. Often I get asked, well, how do I brew this loose tea that I've just purchased? Do I just put it in the pot, just put the herbs in the cup, pour hot water? What do I do? How do I do it? Not really sure how, only used to tea bags. Not a problem. Today we're just going to talk real quick on some of the tea gear that's available out there and how to use them. So we'll start with the basic teapot. So although Americans tend to make tea by the cup, most of the world makes it by the teapot. You want to choose from the globe-shaped English teapot made from porcelain or china, the squat cast iron Japanese Testeben teapots, often with an enameled interior, or the classic Chinese clay teapot, typically smaller than those Westerners tend to use, and of course the modern silver teapot with its vertical silhouette. You want to make sure that the tea you're using is suitable for the tea that you are steeping. For instance, the Japanese Testeben works very well for several green teas and especially well for your oolong teas to help retain the heat that you need for a proper steep. So it makes a very delicious pot. You can also use a porcelain pot when brewing green teas, as the pot cools down a lot quicker than, say, your cast iron kettles and pots, which green tea needs because it needs to be steeped at a slightly lower temperature than your blacks and oolong teas. Next, the electric kettle. A wonderful convenience for folks who can't or don't want to visit the kitchen every time they need to boil water for tea. You just fill with water, plug it in, and you're minutes away from a fresh cup of goodness. Next, the tea strainer. I typically use tea strainers quite often as they rest right over your cup. Typically it's a perforated metal or wire mesh strainer that fits just right on top of that cup to catch any tea leaves that come through the teapot spout while pouring tea into the cups. So I typically do like a tea strainer. I also use a bamboo basket as well when steeping. Most people, I find, have a tea ball sitting somewhere in their home. So a tea ball is a wire mesh ball that opens into two hemispheres, allowing loose tea to be closed up inside before the ball is immersed into the hot water for steeping. You'll also find variations of this, and they have the spoon shape that kind of has a lever that you squeeze and it slides back half of the teaspoon contraption, allowing you to fill your tea in that. And last but not least, one other piece of tea gear that is not often used in, kind of like the Western settings, but if you go to an afternoon or a high tea, you will find that there are tea cozies on your porcelain teapots. A tea cozy is a cloth sheath that can be placed over a teapot to help keep it warm in between servings. Well, that's it. That's our tea gear, just to kind of get you prepared as you're planning out your tea steeping adventures. Make sure that you do have the right tools on hand available. A couple other things that I didn't mention is the steeping pot or a French press. That's where it has the strainer basket inside of the teapot, and it has a press contraption that you press down on the leaves once the water has been inserted, and it just kind of steeps the tea there in the water as you pour it off. So there it is. That's the tea gear for your tea steeping adventures. Thank you again for joining us on our Quick Tea Tips. See you next time for another cutie.